Thanks and appreciation to Brother Green for having selected me as one of the many facilitators on this 45th annual Florida State Lectureship. My wife and I are certainly delighted to be in the state of Florida. We always look forward to any invitation to come to Florida. Florida is a kind of place that can grow on you. You can grow on it. But if you have to leave, you leave everything behind and go on about your business. We still would like to think that we have a few friends in Florida, and that's why we take every opportunity that we get to come to Florida. And if by chance I'm mistaken in my assumption this evening, don't worry. We'll be leaving here in a few hours. But I'm delighted to have my lovely wife of some 48 and a half years with me today. Baby, just stand. And I'm not like Brother Richardson. My wife has to go with me everywhere I go. It's not because I'm going to get out of line, but when people ask me how things are, I tell them the older I get, the easier her job becomes. And to those who are around my age, you can identify with that. But nevertheless, seriously speaking, this evening, we are grateful to be here, and we're going to do our best to have a few thoughts to share with you on the assigned subject that has been given to us. And I want to read from the text 2 verses, and then we'll go back and revisit the things that we have in mind. In the book of Isaiah, the chapter is number 5. Verses 22 and 20 through 21. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink. I've been asked today to approach this from the standpoint of God speaks to a mixed up morality of our society. And what we have in the biblical text today is a parable that Jesus, a process of teaching that Jesus often used when he taught, and that is in the way of a parable. If you will go back to the opening verses of chapter 5, and you might have noticed that Brother Green exercised a lot of wisdom. He put a young man up here first to speed things up. He put me up here to slow things down. And you'll notice that I came up with my notepad and my Bible. So that lets you know I'm still old school. Now, these other guys got the notepads and all that stuff, but we're coming from the same resources. Notice in the opening parts of chapter number 5, he says, Now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my well-beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judea, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could I have done more to my vineyard than I have done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes. And you can go ahead and read the rest of the story. But really, when we look at what is being dealt with in this chapter, God was not talking about planting a literal vineyard. He was talking about his people. The vineyard is symbolized by Israel. However, we also see that the vineyard that he had planted in the minds of his people had disappointed him in that they were not productive and fruitful as he anticipated. And if you know anything about farming, you know that a farmer doesn't just go out and plant seed. But what he does is he prepares the soil. He plants the seed. He may even add some fertilizer, and then he goes back ever so often and cultivate whatever he has planted in order that it might bring forth its best crop. But inasmuch as Israel had disappointed God and they had brought forth, as he said, wild grapes. Anytime you look at something that's wild, it means something wrong with it, doesn't it? You remember when we were growing up, sometime our parents would say, boy, you're just as wild as you can be. They meant in spite of all the instructions that they had given us, there were times when we act like we didn't have a sense to our mind. And so it is there that this group of people that God called his own, they had disappointed him. And look at what he says that he was going to do, commencing with verse number 5. And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden. And I will lay it to waste, and it shall be pruned, not pruned rather, nor digged. But there shall come up briars and thorns, and I will also command the clouds that they rain no more upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, and behold oppression for the righteousness, but behold a cry. You see, when God's people are not productive, when God's people don't live right, when God's people don't follow instructions, when God's people don't love one another, when God's people don't keep God in the center of their lives, we become just like this vineyard. He plants one thing in us, but something else comes out. It's not the fault of the one who does the planting, but it's within us the kind of fruit that we bring forth. And so as a result of how they had disappointed him, we'll find beginning with verses 8 and following that he begins to place woes upon them. Now, anytime you see woe in the Bible, that's not a complimentary word. That's not a word of encouragement. That doesn't mean that you're fixing to get some accolades laid upon you. What is about to happen is God is about to rain down his justice upon you. And so he begins by saying, woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In mine ears, saith the Lord of hosts, of truth, many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair and without habitation. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bath, and the seed of the homer shall yield an ephah. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that may follow a strong drink, that they continue until night, till wine inflame them. Now what you'll notice here as he goes down through these verses, he is showing to them, because of their ungodliness, because of their lack of appreciation, because of their not being faithful to him, everything that they put their hands to do is going to turn out much less than what it would have been if they had stayed in faithfulness to him. And so he uses several illustrations here. But I want us to go over to the 20th verse and camp there for just a little bit. He says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter.